So just to start right off the bat, I'm going to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which me and 90s are the only two people who saw. So just right off the bat, 90s, how did you feel about it? Because I know are you a big Star Wars guy or not?
I'm not a big Star Wars guy at all, but I've pretty much seen them all.
Okay, so,
I've seen every extended universe stuff and all this. Like I've seen everything for the most part.
okay, all right. And coming out of this movie, how did you feel?
Eh,
Ah, okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the general feeling with a lot of people. It's pretty mixed. I don't know. It's pretty divisive. Some people really like it.
Aside from the critics.
Yeah, except for the critics. I mean, they seem to really like it. I mean, it has a strong percentage of Rotten Tomatoes on Metacritic. But
But if you look at the user scores,
um,
it is split down the middle.
yeah, I mean, there's been lots of talks about that we'll get into a little bit later about the whole user scores. But just coming right in with Star Wars: The Last Jedi, basic setup is the First Order is chasing down the Resistance, and they're running out of fuel. They're on the last brink of it's basically chasing the last brink of the galaxy, and is three major subplots kind of going on here. Some work, some kind of don't work. And I guess we can, because who hasn't really seen it by now, so we can kind of delve into it mostly. Finn goes off and tries to find this hacker to break into the Star Destroyer, which is so they can disable a tracker beam. That's the thing that they can find out that's tracking them through hyperspace. And then there's a whole other subplot, the third one, which was Rey and finally meeting Luke and training with Luke Skywalker. And I think you can clearly tell the main focus of the film was with, Luke, Rey, and Kylo. And that's where generally the main focus of the film was. And then everything else was kind of secondary. I think that the Finn and Rose storyline, which people have talked about a lot, and that seems to be the most common denominator as far as things that people do not like about the film. And I pretty much agree. I think that that was one of the weakest elements of the whole film, and it's a shame too because I really like John Boyega and I really like him as Finn. It's just that I felt like a lot of this movie was them looking at Rogue One, them looking at Force Awakens, and saying, "Okay, what do we like about Force Awakens? What did people like about Force Awakens? What did people like about Rogue One? What didn't people like about those films? Let's try to apply the things that people liked about each of those films, and let's bring it to this film." And I think I'm sorry. You were gonna say?
No. It almost feels like I kind of wish that whole casino thing had been the heist film for Rogue One.
Mm.
I felt like I felt like that would have been a more interesting story. But I agree with you. I think that's the weakest, and but I'll let you continue. I just thought that was interesting to point out. It does feel a little similar to his other movies, Brick and Looper, though. In that instance.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't. And who's directing this and writing this is Ryan Johnson, who I'm a fan of. I'm a big fan of his movies. I love Brick. I love Brothers Bloom. Looper, I wasn't really too much of a big fan of. I didn't really like Looper all that much. But his other films, I'm a really big fan of. And he writes and directs this film. And I think he does a really good job with this film and handling the mythos and everything associated with Star Wars. And he does something that J.J. Abrams didn't do with Force Awakens. He pushes this film forward, I think, as far as the Star Wars, kind of mythology. He pushes it forward. He doesn't just rehash, I think, some of the similar elements. I mean, there's elements here of a little bit of Empire, a little bit of Return, even, a little bit of A New Hope, I guess. And then a dash of, like, the prequels. And I think the dash of the prequels comes in with the Finn and Rose storyline when they go to this casino, because it's trying to, okay, what do people do when they're not fighting the Resistance or when they're not fighting the First Order? What do, just regular people do? And this shows us kind of what the 1% does during their free time. And I think that's a cool concept. You know what I mean? I understand that, okay, they were like, okay, we have to give Finn something to do because a lot of people liked Finn and they were like, well, we like Finn a lot. I wish he would be his own hero and he had his own story. Okay, they tried to give that to him. It's just what they gave him. The execution was just kind of poor. I like the idea of it. I see where they were going, but I just think the execution was just poor. And another subplot here is the whole Poe and Resistance storyline of him kind of, having this mutiny against Laura Dern's character, who comes in as this new admiral character, and his kind of tug and pull with her, which I thought was kind of manufactured drama a little bit, because why doesn't she just tell him what her plan is? Because they're being hunted down by the First Order, chased down to the end of the galaxy, and constantly they're being fired upon, being picked off one by one. They need a plan. She isn't giving him a plan. So of course he's going to freak out and do things that are brash and irrational, because he doesn't know what the plan is. And I think that's just kind of manufactured drama there. But when it focuses on Kylo and Rey and Luke, like I said, that's the strong elements of this movie, and that's where it really shines. That's when it's really great stuff. And it's more of Kylo Ren being that kind of angsty kind of guy, that angry kind of guy. I mean, he still has those impulsive, rage kind of fits. And
You mean an emo kid?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, and it works. I think that's what makes his character so kind of complex. I mean, that's what people really loved about him in Force Awakens, and they still continue that here. And like I said, they bring elements from Rogue One and from Force Awakens that was like, okay, what did people like about those movies? What didn't people like about those movies? People liked about the Rogue One, I think, the war elements about that. They bring that here about the war profiteering, and how there's people who benefit from both sides, good or evil, from war, and they bring that here. I think the element that bring the Force Awakens, I think they bring more of the new trio, and they try to expand them more, because I think Poe's character, he's learning more to be a leader and not just the cocky pilot guy. He's learning that I can't always go out there and be this roguish kind of guy. I need to pull back. Because I am part of a team, and I need to learn how to do that. So, I mean, you said it was kind of I mean, why did you come out saying 90s?
Because it left too many open-ended questions, to the point where, like I said, I just watched this just a moment ago, actually, and when I got done watching it, I was just arguing with a bunch of people about it, because it's like, okay, well, what does this mean for the rest of the series? Like, with the stuff that's canon from the movies, and the stuff that's I guess you can say is non-canon from like the cartoon series, video games, whatever it may be.
Uh-huh.
It's just so many different things where it's like, and I can't really say it without spoilers. It's just like so many different things where it's like,
it's spoilers. You can say it.
okay, I just got to strip. Oh man, it's not even a major spoiler, but it's the kid at the fucking end. The kid at the end, he has the Force.
Right.
So what is that all about? That's the main part of the argument there, because it was already with Rey, where it's like, oh, how did Rey get this power of the Force or whatever? Like, I thought you were supposed to go through intense training to do that, like a Buddhist monk or whatever. Like, is it within everybody? Like, what does this mean for the other movies? Like, why is this just now coming up now? That was the main focus.
Okay, let me break that down. Okay, so everybody can have Force abilities. You can be what they call Force sensitive. Like Leia is Force sensitive.
And I agree with that.
Right. So anybody could have Force abilities.
But it takes actual training and effort to be able to utilize the Force.
Right. To be able to become what they call a Jedi and Jedi Master, that takes rigorous training to become a Jedi, and to be able to channel the Force and use the Force to your will. Yeah, that takes training, but people can be Force sensitive. Like, that doesn't take any training. Like, so yeah, you can be born with the Force. And I think the kid at the end is showing that the age of the Jedi will kind of never go away or never die, because there will always be people out there with the Force. That'll never go away. So, that will never ever go away. Like, that spark will always be there. And I could see what you're talking about as far as some things kind of, not really making sense, or some things they left too many open-ended questions. And a lot of what this movie did is shut down a lot of stuff in Force Awakens, which personally, I mean, some people come on the side of not liking. I came on the personal side of liking because
In what way?
because it shuts down things like, okay, the big mystery coming out of Force Awakens was who's Rey's parents. This movie tells you they're fucking nobody.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's what Kylo Ren straight up tells. He's like, you know who they are? They're nobody. They were drunkards who sold you for booze money. That's what they were. Like you wanted to, you know what I mean? You wanted to be special. You wanted to be this person. You're not. You were just some regular person. You don't come from this long heritage. And me personally, I like that. I didn't really care whose Rey's parents were. I never really cared about that. I never speculated about that. I didn't care. Like, and whatever answer they gave, it wasn't going to satisfy anyone at all.
That is true. No matter what they gave at that point would not have satisfied anybody. But at the same time, not giving an answer like that also has its own problems. I'm glad you like that, and in many ways I would have too. But that actually brought up a problem of one of the few saving graces that could have been in this movie. You just eliminated for a punch, a gut punch, and while I do appreciate the gut punch, I at the same time go, that's it. Okay, fuck you then.
Well,
yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, that was a gut punch, I think, because she was sitting there, when you see her and when she's in Jakku, she's thinking, okay, my parents are going to come back for me. I know it. I know that, I'm going to leave this place and, go on to something else in my life. I'm not going to be scavenging my whole life. And for him to tell her just straight up like that, it's like, hey, you're nobody. Your parents were nobodies and you're a nobody.
It's more realistic, but for a movie, it's like you expect to see them for some reason. Like I don't know, something more.
I mean, and guess maybe that's what people expect. They're expecting that, like, oh, what's the big reveal of her parents? Like, again, like I said, I don't think that answer would have satisfied no. If she was Luke Skywalker's daughter, if she was the long lost sister of Kylo Ren, if she was,
I would have been all right if she was. The only one that made sense to me was that she would have been Obi-Wan's kid.
If she was Obi-Wan's kid, everybody would have went like, oh, that's so predictable. Oh, why does she have to be linked to everybody, to people that's already been in the Star Wars universe? Why can't she be her own character? Here, she's her own character. She's not linked to anybody. But
she's still not that very good.
I'd come on the side of really liking Rey. I really love Daisy Ridley as Rey.
Okay.
I come on the side of really liking her.
No doubt. I think the actress plays the role very well, but the role, there isn't much for her to do in that role. There isn't much character in that role, but that's later. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Please go on.
And then another thing they broke down. They kind of broke down. Who's Snoke? They don't care because they killed Snoke in the movie. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about who Snoke is.
Man, he was a badass until then. Like, he's like, man, I'm the baddest motherfucker on the throne. Like, think you want to fuck with me?
But the reason I'm okay with that as well is because Snoke is just another Emperor guy. That's all he is.
I actually like that gut punch.
Yeah.
That one, I would have wanted more for Snoke to actually do, but I actually think that was an interesting and actually good change of pace. Whereas, oh, you think we'll have like this grand destiny? It's just like, you know what? No.
Yeah,
I mean, no. How about not?
Yeah, because he's just another Emperor guy. Okay, let's just get rid of him. Boom, let's fucking kill him off. What's the big mystery behind Snoke? Where does Snoke come from? All this, again, theorizing and all this type of stuff, I didn't care about. I was just like, okay, Snoke is, okay, he's cool, and he's powerful with the Force. You obviously see that, but to me, he was another Emperor guy. Okay, whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, whatever, let's move on from that. Another thing they kind of get away from is, like I said, this is not a straight up remake of Empire Strikes Back. This is not them just doing Empire again. I think they actively
it's more of a remake of Return of the Jedi.
I don't think
let's call it for what it really is. It's a slice of pie from each of them.
Fair enough. You're right.
I mean, I think it takes elements from each one, like I said, but I think it actively tries not to be those things. It's like, you expect us to do this one thing? No, we're not going to do that. Because Luke doesn't even really train Rey all that much. Like, there's a couple of lessons he gives her, but it's all about how this is why the Jedi are bad. This is why I don't want to train you. Like, the Jedi, at the height of their hubris, they allowed Emperor Palpatine to rise and to kill him. Like, they were fools to think that they could control this Force. The Force is this mystical energy. The Jedi were fools to think that they could control all that. Like, they were just completely overconfident. And, he gets into that. And she sees, and it's a different change of pace from what we've seen from the Luke character, and seeing how, him living on this island, becoming this hermit, how that's changed him over the years and how his mistakes, his failures has kind of left him this broken man. And Mark Hamill was very resistant about where they were going to take the character. But I think that was necessary because it shows more growth and it shows failure. Like he's not this kind of, perfect person that, sometimes people fail. I mean, Yoda, he did the same thing too. He failed and he lived in solitude as a hermit and just completely drifted away from society. So things like that. I mean, great people can make those kind of mistakes like that. What did you think about the whole thing about the whole backstory with him potentially trying to kill Kylo Ren, and how they told that story in 3 different ways? 90s. How did you like that?
You said how they tried. Wait, repeat the last part. You said how they got Kylo Ren 3 different times.
Because they told the story of like how Luke and Kylo Ren, like the whole like the exchange between those two, and how Luke was standing over him with the lightsaber. It tells it one from Luke's perspective, then it tells it from Kylo Ren's perspective, then it tells it from the real story of what happened. I mean, did you like how they handled that?
Uh, yes, I did, because it showed me so much. It's like the Jedi Order has a problem because they're so caught up in being good or whatever. It's kind of like organized religion. I keep seeing this comparison there. You guys can argue with me on that. Yeah, you guys can argue with me on that if you want to, but I see it as he's like, I sense a great evil in you. Like you're having negative thoughts or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have to end you now. Whereas he could have just easily said, "Hey man, I I had to peep in your mind real quick, man. You have some trouble, man. You want to talk about it?" But now he's like, "Fuck it, no, we can't have Darth Vader, not my father again." And he's very scared about this. And it's like 2 extremisms where it's like he's doing that on his side because he's afraid of the Sith, and the Sith are like just doing whatever they want to because they are the Sith. So
Right.
I,
Um,
I was I just want to say I was really caught up on the concept of a great Jedi when I first came into this, and I still was not satisfied with that idea whatsoever. They didn't really talk about it much.
well, I mean, that's what people were saying, possibly like the introduction of Great Jedi in this film. I think whether or not they'll do, because they have taken pieces from the expanded universe and brought them into these movies. Like Kylo Ren is basically like Ben Solo, from the expanded universe, from the books and stuff. So they have done that.
Okay.
So I think the Great Jedi maybe will be in the next film, because you see that Rey took the books from the like the original Jedi text. She took those books. So I don't know if she'll train herself or if Luke will come back as a Force ghost to train her.
Who
And
cares?
I mean, well, we're talking about Star Wars, so we got to talk about it real quick. That's the reason we're talking about it. So I don't know. So whether she'll, because interpret the books her own way, and that will create the Great Jedi. I don't know. I think that a lot of knockout things in this movie, I'll keep coming back to it. I'll keep coming back to Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and Daisy Ridley as Rey and Adam Driver as Kylo Ren, because I think they're really, acting in this film. And also with the addition of Carrie Fisher as Leia, I think she's also really great. And to know that this is, kind of her last Star Wars movie is, pretty sad, because I think, I think she's gotten better and better over time, acting wise. And this one, she had a lot more to do than she did in Force Awakens, and she's gives a more stronger performance. And you can see Mark Hamill injected a little bit more of himself into Luke Skywalker, a little bit more of the like his humor, because he is a funny guy. Like you watch him on Twitter, you see he's a very funny guy. I think he injected a little bit more of himself into kind of the character a little bit more this time than he did previously. And I think there's lots of moments in this movie that, like I said, you think it's gonna go one way and it doesn't. And there's a lot of great, there's a lot of really great moments. I mean, just the beginning, the dog fight in the beginning is really great.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really great. I think the scene, the Laura Dern character, is good. I mean, a lot of the newer characters like, Rose, I thought she was okay. I thought, again, she's just saddled with a really poor storyline that they gave her with Finn. It kind of seems like she just kind of tags along there.
I mean, I like that until the end.
Until the end.
Yeah, and you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice myself for you because I love you after being with you for how long was it? A few hours? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly how much time it was exactly, but I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about. We'll come to that in a second. A lot of the newer characters, Benicio del Toro, as one of the also the new characters, I thought he was really terrible. I thought you could have really did without him. I was just like, and then he does this weird stutter thing that seems like a complete actor choice. Like, well, I just feel like
It did.
I just feel like my character should have a stutter. Like, why? Like, why do you need to do that? He's just like, and Ryan Johnson just let him go with it because, like, well, fuck it, he's not in this movie that much, so screw it, whatever. Okay,
I can see that.
let's just have him go with it, whatever. It doesn't matter. I thought that was just like, okay, well, that just seems like a really weird thing to do. Like in stuff like that can work. Like when Samuel Jackson had like a lisp in Kingsman, like that worked and that fit. It wasn't too over exaggerated, too silly. It's just like, okay, that worked. Um, and so, what did you think with a lot of the newer characters? Did you like them? Like, did you like Rose as a character, or did you just think her and just everything about her was bad? And people like the Laura Dern character, people like Benicio Torres, DJ. I mean, what did you think about all the newer characters they introduced in this movie?
I liked okay, I'll say Rose first. I liked Rose as a character, like I said, up until the ending because she saved his life. It was great and all. Like, is she even alive?
Yeah, she's alive.
Okay, dude, it's just so weird. Like that relationship, just yeah. She geeked out over him. She kind of idolized him because, oh, you're Finn. You did this, but
That
I
kind
don't
of
know.
really reflects the fan base, if I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, that makes it perfect. Then if that's what they're going for, then they hit it right on the head.
Yeah. Yeah, because she does fangirl out for um Finn a lot, like she does. I mean, when she
Finn's like, I'm trying to be hardcore here.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like she does fangirl out a little bit. I'm like, which I guess he would be a hero in the Resistance. You know what I mean? Like he would be, because he did destroy Star Killer base and everything like that. So I guess people like the top tier people like the Poe, like the Ray. I mean, yeah, they would kind of be these infamous type people. So I kind of understand that a little bit, but I see your point. Yeah, she was kind of like a little bit felt like fan insertion type character. Um,
Yeah.
I do think this film had really great tension in it. I think that throughout the film, like I say, when the first one was on the on the behind of the Resistance, and they're constantly just picking them off one by one, it's like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, are they kind of gonna make it out of this? And even when they land on the planet, it's like, I mean, with a big franchise movie, it's hard to build that tension. It's hard to, like have moments of like, well, these characters are gonna be all right because these are you got to do another movie. But at times it kind of did feel like, well, is Finn gonna die? Like especially when he's trying to do a kamikaze thing into that giant cannon. It's like, well, damn, are they gonna kill him off here? Like those, I think it did build up tension for me in those moments, which is really hard to do in a big franchise type film. And I think a lot of the moments between Rey and Kylo when they're doing their Force FaceTime calls, and they're talking to each other, I think that's really great. I think those moments are just really interesting, and it goes back to my what I said before about expanding the mythos of Star Wars of what you can do with the Force, as far as communicating as far as great distances and actually kind of almost physically being there with somebody. Like you see scenes where they're talking, and she's on this island and there's water that brushes up and it gets on his face, even though he's a whole galaxy away, it splashes on his face, and how that can really happen. There's moments when like Force Ghosts, expands that, where Force Ghosts can interact with their surroundings. Like we've never.
So stupid though.
Yeah, man, that's bullshit.
I mean, I don't know. Why do you say that's stupid, but you say somebody who shoots lightning out of their fingers isn't stupid?
Where did this come? Like that's the thing with this movie. Like the first thing I said was the kid and just
Right.
Ray, where they just got their powers out of nowhere. But now it's
Well, they
just they're
didn't. I mean,
introducing.
okay, they didn't get their powers out of nowhere. People can be born with the Force, like so they didn't get their powers out of nowhere.
Yeah, 90s. I don't feel too bad about that. That makes sense.
So
Well, in all honesty, I agree with you guys, but I had a whole argument with somebody that was more of a Star Wars fan than me.
Oh, I mean, by all means, if we want to go to that point, but he's just talking about the reason why I suppose I find that BS is why didn't Obi-Wan do anything then during the entire proceedings of it? You can't just make shit up in your movie that the other movies didn't do without giving an actual reason why they can do that now.
Exactly.
If they had said, all right, the reason why he can is that Luke had focused so hard on trying to make this work that he had done it doing it out of body. He had done like astral projection, and through years of training, he was able to do it whilst inside of his own body. So when he became a Force ghost, quote unquote, he was able to do something that no one else could. If they did that, I'd be like, all right, you showed, not told. I can interpret that fine. I'll believe it. But he just does it now. Like,
And
no, you just can't write yourself out of a corner like that.
I mean, Luke was gonna die either way, even if he had showed up
In
on
the
the.
shittiest way possible.
I mean, I don't. I think it was a pretty beautiful moment when Luke died. I mean, he was gonna die either way in the movie because obviously they're killing off a lot of the original trilogy to move on.
Yeah, so they don't have to pay him.
Well, one, Harrison Ford didn't want to be in Star Wars anymore. He didn't give a fuck about Star Wars
Oh
anymore.
no. But that made sense. Harrison Ford being like, I'm gonna die, has been like, I've been wanting Han Solo to die for years.
Yeah, and two, I mean, with Luke dying, it's like, okay, I mean, I love the original trilogy people, but it's okay. It's time to get rid of them, move them out, and bring in.
I didn't mind that aspect of it. I wanted, there was no reverence for the Luke character. Actually, in fact, when Disney said, "Oh, we're gonna destroy all of the side canon," I actually was a little bit sad because I liked a lot of it. Yeah, there was a lot of dumb shit in it. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really dumb, stupid shit, like any extended canon. But if they reined it in, they just cherry picked the best moments of it and said, "This is for certain the actual storyline we're going with, and we're gonna put this in movie form." You know who actual writers wrote and did this?
Mhm.
That'd be like, oh, that's the best of both worlds. And I thought one of the best aspects of it was Luke and his wife, this fiery redheaded Jedi that was on a path for revenge, and slowly over time they kind of began to fall in love with each other and got kids, set up a Jedi temple, low key one, learned from the mistakes of the previous one, helped out around the galaxy, and for the most part had a pretty damn good life for the most of it. And instead, he's just an old man pissing off a cliff, just an old dude broken and just not acting like the Luke character. I can understand a broken character, don't get me wrong, but his character is treated with complete disrespect, and you can tell right from the get-go. He doesn't want to train anybody, which again, I understand his reluctance. He wants to kill his nephew, which is bullshit, and Luke would have not have done that because he learned from his father.
Right, Luke. I mean, okay, with that scene right there, okay, so he admits in the movie that his brief moment of complete weakness and that was like his failure because he's over him and he has a lightsaber, and again it shows it from his perspective, one from Kylo's perspective, and what really happened. And what really happened was, okay, he ignited this lightsaber, he had it open, but he just looked at himself and he just thought to himself like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what is wrong with me? And it's just, he just woke up with him standing over him with the lightsaber ignited.
And it was too late.
Yeah, and that's the issue. It's just like, what am I doing? And I think that's what it shows. It's like his moment in foray into the darkness, and like everybody has that light, that dark in them, and has to be that balance. Because whatever force that comes, whatever good force there comes, there has to be an evil force to face it. It's like yin and yang, whatever. I mean, Star Wars has not been that complex. Good, bad, evil, but this is trying to offer more complexity in this scenario of what it's all about.
I would like to add that's where I see that comparison to religion, where it's like the Jedi see themselves as like, I'm just gonna throw it out there and say like Christianity or something like that. It's like they need this to be morally just and centered and balanced. Whereas like Yoda comes through and says, you know what, you don't know much about all this stuff. Maybe there's another way, or maybe who knows what he's actually saying. He's doing Yoda talk.
Yeah.
But again, I felt that was forced.
Yeah,
I think
it's so weird to even see him. But go ahead.
That is not the Luke character. He may, as a joke, I could have seen that as a joke, and he just like a joke to himself because in his moments of isolation or something. If you want to go that dumb route, which they went with, and him being isolated from himself, they want to go with, oh, well, and then he says like maybe the words backwards, and Ray looks at him like, what? And then he turns the words right around so she can understand. But he doesn't fix his mistake. Instead, he just keeps on going with that thought. And like that was kind of an homage, and he just does that as the kind of a tick that he uses as a an old teaching mechanism.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about like the way he talks like Yoda. If he did that as a quip, as a instead of a self-deprecating moment, was
No,
going up like, oh,
Luke never talks like Yoda.
I know. I'm just saying. Whatever. Whatever.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to understand. What are you?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
I was trying to do something like '90s, said something about it, and I was trying to, whatever.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. I mean, Yoda shows up and he talks like Yoda, and it's Yoda from how Yoda is from Empire. Very jokey, very playful, and still after all this time, he's teaching Luke. And I mean, you say this is not the Luke character. I mean, we haven't seen Luke in decades. However many years, and he's not that. Of course, he's not going to be the same person he was at the end of Return of the Jedi. I mean, it makes no sense for him to kind of almost be that same person, especially after the experiences he's went through. It kind of makes no sense for him to kind of maybe be that same person and to show some type of growth or some type of development. And I mean, like I said, I mean, I think the way they handled that character was really good. A lot of people talking about it was egregious the way they messed up that character. I don't think so at all. I think that he like I said, there's parts of him here that take from Empire, that take from Return. Like his journey is very much of that Yoda, Obi-Wan, kind of journey of him living in solitude, him living in just complete hermit type lifestyle. That's what happened because of his mistakes, because of his failures. I mean, with this movie, I mean, I know this is very divisive. I mean, I think there's some definitely stuff that I see why people wouldn't like about it. I think the humor works in some parts, doesn't work in others. I think that there's some jokes that just don't land, but I think there's some jokes that when they land, they really do and they work really well. I thought that mainly the people mainly
Can you name me the jokes?
that worked well.
Yeah.
I thought that the beginning of the scene where Poe, when he does the whole prank call to Hux, I thought that was really good. I thought that was really funny stuff. I thought the scene where what else is a really good scene? I thought the scene where they have these nun-like creatures that take care of the island.
Oh yeah, the natives of the island.
Yeah, the natives of the island that kind of take care of the whole the Jedi Island and everything like that. There's a lot of good comedy bits with them. For instance, like Rey, she slices a rock in half while she's training, and then it falls and it hits like a barrel they're rolling. Like
my cabbages.
You know what I mean? They don't say that. They don't say my cabbage. They don't say that shit.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, this movie should be called The Last Airbender.
And so there's moments like that are really, and it's not too overplayed. Again, like I said, I think there's moments where Mark Hamill injects himself into the Luke character. Like when Rey, she's talking to him and he asks him, it's like, "Who are you?" And she says, "Where are you from?" And she says, "Nowhere." And he says, "Nobody's from nowhere." And then she says, "Well, I'm from Jakku." And he says, "Oh, well, yeah, that's pretty much nowhere." So I mean, there's some good, nice, playful moments in there that are really funny. I mean, some jokes that don't work, like Finn, he calls Phasma Chrome Dome, like that's stupid. I think that's not. I don't think that worked at all. That felt really flat.
I missed that joke actually, man. That
Yeah,
was pretty bad.
yeah, he calls her that. I was like, okay, that's really terrible.
That's also kind of a weird use. The whole Phasma character has been kind of a waste of potential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she dies in this movie, and it's like, wow. I mean, that was kind of a waste of time of why you would even.
No, that was not just a waste of time. That was a waste of an actress, an actually really good actress.
Yeah.
Built up from the first movie where she got 5 minutes, if that. She got no characterization, and the marketing built her up as this really interesting character. And it's nope. And this one, no, you're dead now.
Yeah.
But did they do that? Did they do that with Boba Fett?
No.
Boba Fett's barely even in the movies. When you really look at
Boba Fett's barely in that too, but at least
and he dies like a bitch.
Yeah, he does.
He dies like a
like
fucking
a
bitch
too. But in that way, at least he had moments of being cool. She didn't even have that.
What moment?
Okay, fair
What
enough.
moment would you say Boba Fett was cool?
Okay. There's the moment when Lando Calrissian betrays Han. They open up the door, and Vader, like a boss, is just sitting at the end of the table waiting for dinner. Pulls his blaster away. We'd be honored for you to join us. And Boba Fett just walks out like a boss.
So him
Like,
walking is a badass moment.
sure. I mean,
She
no,
does walking.
no. Okay, another moment as Luke is passing by. He hears Luke. It's subtle, but you see the actor kind of turn his head, hearing him. Attacks Luke in the middle of the corridor. Successfully steals Han. I want him alive. Arguing with Darth Vader, which I mean, that's some balls to do that. And to get, he's like, he's no good to me, dead. This is a lot of small. They're very small moments. They're not big badass moments, but at least they had something. He wasn't ever taken as a joke in the first one. Like, you got a trash compactor,
Right. Okay.
really?
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I like Boba Fett better than I like Captain Phasma, but I'm just saying, I mean, Boba Fett didn't
No,
have a lot,
again,
lot to do.
I'm comparing two characters that are barely characters in themselves,
Right.
and showing that even with the effort that was given, it was still little effort compared to the original,
Right.
even less.
Yeah, I could see some of that. Like, yeah, I mean, Catherine Fenn as a character, yeah, I mean, she was completely, I think, utilized very poorly. And this movie's already jammed.
Both are overhyped.
Yeah, sure, both overhyped. I mean, Phasma looks cool and she looks great. It's nice to know that her armor was specifically blaster proof. That's nice.
Oh
to,
yeah.
Like that's nice. I don't know why they couldn't give that to all the other.
All of them?
Yeah, I guess they'll say like, well, her armor is specially made with some material that's so rare.
Yeah, man, it's chrome vibranium.
I guess so, because like
Unobtainium, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, like because why wouldn't you give that to all the stormtroopers if you have like blaster proof, armor? Like why wouldn't you give that to everybody? But okay, whatever. And like I think I really like this. For me, this is right behind Empire. For me, if I had to put a list, I'd go Empire. I'd go The Last Jedi, New Hope, Force Awakens, Return, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, and Attack of the Clones, and then Phantom Menace. If I had to rank all of them, I mean, I really think this one for me is just right behind it. And I think when it's great, it's really great. And
How's Carrie Fisher in this, by the way?
We say what?
Carrie Fisher. How do you
she,
feel about Carrie Fisher?
she's really good. I thought she was really strong in it. It is very interesting. I think there's a great moment for her character to die in this, but I think she had already had wrapped filming Star Wars.
Yes.
And then she died. Because it's a great moment for her to do it. Like when Laura Dern's character makes that like self-sacrifice and warp speeds into the Star Destroyer, the starship. That's actually a really great moment. Also, that when she
I will
does
say that's cool.
that
That
is
is a legitimately
that
very cool strategic moment and felt actually appropriately Star Wars.
yeah.
And I went, that is really neat.
Yeah.
Too bad there's not more of that in this movie.
I thought the throne room scene was really great. I thought when Kylo and Rey teamed up, I thought it was really good. I thought that moment was awesome. I thought that what else? I thought when Luke finally showed up on the crate, when they finally landed to the planet of the crate, I thought that was good. Visually, I love what they did with the planet. Like how when everybody made footsteps on the planet or anything like that, they had these red impressions on the planet. I thought that looked gorgeous.
No, the visuals are fantastic.
I mean, the visuals looked absolutely beautiful on that. I thought that looked absolutely incredible. So I think there's a lot of really great moments in this movie. That just for me outweigh the bad. Just for me personally. Okay. Where was I with the whole? Because you said there wasn't a lot of great moments. Like when she warp speeds into the Star Destroyer. That would have been a great moment for Carrie Fisher's character to do that. Would Leia could do that, and that would have been a great.
I agree.
Great send off.
If they were gonna kill off a character, and to have a really good pinnacle for this Kylo Ren character and showing real heroism, and showing that, I think that actually would have been very appropriate.
Yeah.
But they let Laura Dern, a character we had only been introduced in this movie and had barely gotten any screen time.
Yeah.
I think it would have had much more impact if it was Leia to do it.
Yeah. I think that would have been better if she did. And they had kind of like a fake out death with her in this where she gets sucked down into space. I will admit, like a lot of people don't like that moment where she has her like Superman moment where she's kind of floating and then the force kind of protects her, and then she drifts back. into. I have to admit that moment is a little goofy. I was like, okay, that is kind of a little.
Hey man,
That's a little
she
strange.
is Zahir from Legend of Korra, and you will not disrespect her flight powers.
Don't talk about Legend of Korra.
Hey, I still love season 3, but let's.
Yeah. Uh-huh. 2 seasons of trash. Don't talk about it.
Uh-huh.
I had my.
Yeah. Okay. So
We're not talking about that.
yeah. So I think that moment is a little goofy. That move's a little silly.
Yeah.
So 90s. I mean, what moments did you really love? What moments did you really dislike? If you had to say.
One of the guys that I liked in this movie the most is the one that appeared the least, and I can't remember his name, but he was like a swindler, basically. He was at the gambling planet or whatever. I don't know all the planet's names, but
Who cares?
yeah, pretty much.
Was it Benicio del Toro's character?
Yes, I believe that's his name. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, he appeared for a little while. He stole a ship. He helped them. He gave a nice little quote. He says like, "Yeah, it's good guys, bad guys. It's like at the end of the day, you're gonna be screwed." In my opinion, is what he
Right.
says.
That was a all right line. Also, I did like the little part, the fact that in his hacking ability was just really low tech stuff.
Yeah.
Was
I mean,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, it was like he kind of just used a pick and tool to kind of do the stuff.
It seemed like
Yeah,
he
you
was.
got a point.
He just seemed like he's doing a bunch of typing or whatever on something. Like a
I thought that was a little neat. There's a neat kind of inverse would have been, oh well, this guy is the super amazing hacker. No, he just uses a lot of really low key, low tech, and the high tech doesn't know how to deal with low tech. It's the exact inverse, and so he just bypasses all the crap.
Yeah. So what other things you liked and didn't like?
Okay, so yeah, him personally, I want to see more of him. Like, this is the first film in a while that introduced a person like him, and then he just disappears. I'm like, okay, this movie is 2.5 hours.
He'll probably
I expected him to pop back up.
he'll probably come back up in the next movie because you don't get an actor like Benicio del Toro to come up and only
once.
on that little part.
Okay.
He'll probably show back up later, maybe.
And yeah, that's another thing with the movie as well. Like, I feel like the next movie is going to be the best movie in my opinion personally because it's going to address the Gray Jedi more. It's going to address like how they're going to fix the balance of it all and what's really going to happen to the Sith because they say like, oh, the Jedi needs to end, the Jedi needs to end, the Jedi needs to end. But we have one supposed Jedi. Finn may actually be a Jedi, even though that's just my little speculation from the Rocks movie.
What do you Ray move the rocks?
Yeah, but as he walked through, the Rocks moved through. I just want to create a little speculation on that.
Listen, he's not gonna be a Jedi.
very-
no, he's not. He's
The
not
only
gonna be
brother
a Jedi.
who was a Jedi was Mace Windu.
So, like, I think y'all might as well just get that out of your heads right now. He just because you saw him pick up a lightsaber in Force Awakens, he's not a Jedi.
Gotta crush my dreams, man. Like
That ain't
I know
happen.
it's like a 0.000%, but
That's
I mean,
not.
I didn't
That's
add the
not.
one.
I feel you, but we got to move on. We got to wrap it up. So, what's your all's both ratings? If you had to give it right now, which you have to, because we're talking about it.
I'd say tune in, but it's a low tune in. But it's more like a matinee because
Mm.
it's just so it's so fast paced and it's a lot going on. It's long. It's a decent journey, and it's just leaving too many unanswered questions for me. And I'm just really waiting for the
Right.
next one.
Wait a minute. Okay, so when you say it left unanswered, what are some unanswered questions for you?
Oh well, we talked about it all the way through.
Just the Gray
everything-
Jedi thing, that, and you said the Gray Jedi and what else?
Okay, so you guys say like we're leaving this all to our speculation and like how we want to form this idea. Dust brought up a good point where it's like, yeah, how did Luke do that? Like, could you explain that in the series? Because you guys are not foreign to talking down to us about certain things. So just tell us what it is so we don't make up our own stuff and just have the fan base fight each other.
Okay, all right. Okay,
What
That's
about
pretty
you?
much all.
all right. Okay, that's
What
okay.
about you, Jim?
I see your point. Okay, so yeah, I think I was very enthusiastic about it coming out. Like I said, I think it's maybe the second best one of the franchise. So I give it a very solid high tune in. I really enjoy myself a lot. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on from talking about Star Wars. Hello, thanks for checking out our content. If you liked it, let us know, and if you didn't, let us know that as well. If you want to see more content, we post every Saturday on SoundCloud and YouTube at The Afternoon Tune. You can also find us through various social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all one word at The Afternoon Tune. And if you don't deal with any of that social media stuff, you can also find us through our email at theafternoontune@gmail.com. And don't forget to always stay tuned.